it mixes more easily into the...
And how many cups?
All of that and more. Use this little bowl. Let's look at all these mushrooms. How are we going to fit that all in one thing? Sometimes we get a little carried away. But that's the nice thing about finding mushrooms. You just find so many different kinds. I've had mushroom soup with over a dozen different kinds of mushrooms in it. This mushroom soup here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 8 kinds of mushrooms in it. 8, yeah, the little brown ones too. So, and they're all very tasty. Their flavors are mixing a little bit, but since I'm leaving them in big chunks like this, you're going to be able to taste the differences of them. But yeah, some mushrooms absorb flavor more than others. Some hold their flavor real well, and some absorb flavor more than others. So okay, they're all going in the soup now. Hey, it all fit in there. So now we're going to do the chicken of the woods Alfredo. Creamed chicken of the woods. And I'm going to be the assistant. First, we use lots of butter. We're doing a double recipe here, so I think it called for probably a 1/4 cup of butter or 1/2 cup of butter, and that's a whole cup. It's 8 tablespoons. Onions, celery, carrots, tarragon, fresh tarragon that they had here at the store, some kind of orange powder, cayenne pepper it is, and is that sea salt? Celery salt? Are we going to put any lemon in it? We need to put some lemon in it. Oh, that stuff there is lemon juice. It's probably fresh squeezed too, right?
It is.
Add the shallots. Okay. And celery. I suppose I could... and carrot. And saute gently until soft, but without coloring. Don't color them. They're already colored. The nice thing about finding big clumps of mushrooms is this recipe takes a big clump of mushrooms. So that's a nice thing about that. She's going to tell me when those things are soft and ready for this.
How many poisonous mushrooms actually are there in Iowa?
There are some very common poisonous mushrooms. Two species of mushrooms are very dangerous that are common in Iowa. Well, I shouldn't say 2 species. There's several species of amanita. They grow under oak trees, and they have a cup. When you pick mushrooms, you want to make sure that you look at the base of the stem, especially those that are growing on the ground. And if there's some kind of cup-like structure, or it looks like something coming up, part of it's coming up the stem, or lumps coming out of the bottom of the stem, then it's an amanita. And there are a couple of amanitas that are good to eat, but you got to really know what you're doing. You have to, so generally any of those type of amanitas, and as you hunt mushrooms, you're going to get to where you can spot an amanita right away. And then, like these little brown ones, there's a very common small brown mushroom. It's all brown. It doesn't have the velvet stem, and it doesn't have the creamy gills. It's got brown gills growing, but otherwise it looks very similar to this. It grows on logs, and it's very common, and it's very deadly poisonous. There's a lot of mushrooms that cause gastrointestinal distress, and a number of mushrooms that will cause an allergic reaction and maybe not poison everybody the same. You ready for these? The most common poisoning mushroom that poisons most of the people, and I got to admit that early in my mushroom hunting career, I made a mistake with these too, is a green gill or Chlorophyllum mollibides, or it's very common. It's the prettiest mushroom. It's the biggest mushroom, and being the prettiest, biggest, and most common mushroom is, you know, prime for poisoning. And the gills don't turn green until it gets old. When it comes up, it's like this big, beautiful parasol button mushroom. Sometimes they grow in rings. You've probably seen a lot of them. You probably look in somebody's yard and go, oh my gosh, look at those big mushrooms in the yard. Chances are very good that those big mushrooms in the yard are poisonous. Not deadly poisonous, but poisonous. Good. Now, when do you want any of this stuff?
Right now I'm letting it, add the chicken of the woods, let them absorb some of the pan juices, and then cook for 3 or 4 minutes. And actually the first time I made it, I did actually look at my watch, because I'm not an expert mushroom person. So that's what I'm going to do.
The recipe that Sally's cooking right now is in this Practical Mushroom Encyclopedia, and there's a lot of great mushrooms recipes in here. This isn't such a great identification book, but it's got a lot of neat, interesting cooking information and preparation information, and it does give you some. It really goes into depth in talking about some of the different mushrooms, like these honey mushrooms. I would have had some for you, but I ate them all. You know, mushrooms, just like anything, you really need to test and try small amounts, because people can have an allergic reaction to mushrooms just like they can to peanuts or wheat or things like that. So when you're trying a new mushroom, even though you have positively identified it, you'll want to try it in a small amount. So this is a good chance. I haven't seen anybody heading off to the vomitorium or anything yet, so apparently nobody's having a terrible reaction to any of these mushrooms. What is that sauce there, Sally? How do you make that sauce?
The broth?
The broth.
This is a special
Well, here,
broth
just keep doing it.
recommended by Roxanne. Go ahead.
It's just a vegetable stock that we sell here that's already made and has a really nice, even flavor. It doesn't take over dishes, but it does add a little bit of flavor on its own.
Oh, I add the sherry and the tarragon. Tarragon's this green stuff. Well, once again, good thing I brought Sally here.